Hey guys, you remember when I said this would be just a part 2? Well, I forgot that Season 3 has Wukong so present and so much happens in Season 3 that there's no way I'm gonna fit Season 4 into here too, so maybe there will have to be a part 3. I didn't even finish the Season 3 notes last night actually, so I'm hoping I can fit like the end of Season 3 and Season 4 into the next video. If I remember correctly, Wukong is kind of trapped or lost during a lot of Season 4, so that might make it easier to condense into a shorter video. Suffice it to say, I had no idea what I was getting into when I started this. Oh well, I'll try to finish it. Even the theme song for Season 3 shows Wukong right there beside MK physically. Season 3 has Wukong nearly powerless in comparison to how he used to be, or at least at the beginning. Early on, I see Wukong acting concerned that MK is emulating his behavior, since that behavior led Wukong to getting hurt. It does seem as though while outsiders already know that Wukong isn't generally a trustworthy kind of person, the main cast is also slowly starting to realize that this season. We've already established that Wukong has a really bad habit of abandoning his friends or just not being there for them. But at least early on in this season, the worst abandonment is just Wukong often needing to meditate to regain his powers, which is understandable since he'll be more help to them that way. There's an episode that almost seems like a funny slice of life episode, where Pigsy and Tang wake Wukong from his trance too early, and so Wukong has amnesia. But this amnesia is really weird because he believes that he is a past version of himself. Now, we've already gotten hints that Wukong used to be a bad person, but it seems like this past version of himself anyway isn't too bad, like the one who is traveling with the monk. Because we can see that he was loyal to his former companions, but he was also very carefree and even laughs at the idea of teaching someone. This was probably just breaking the fourth wall a bit, but there's even a snide comment made by Wukong when he has amnesia that if he didn't have friends, he'd probably turn into a manipulative jerk. But apparently, Pigsy was already harboring quite a bit of resentment for Wukong over what he's done for MK, or rather, what he hasn't done. But it's through this younger version of Wukong that he slowly starts to see a better side to him and starts to think that maybe he misjudged him. But literally as soon as he's about to forgive him, Wukong says something, or like past Wukong says something that implies that current Wukong is lying by omission about a crucial detail to their current plan. So present Wukong is actually more dishonest than he was during Journey to the West. Pigsy is upset when he finds this out, but instead of telling everyone, he carefully keeps it to himself while keeping a closer eye on Wukong. I do think this is good of him. It seems like he's trying to give Wukong the benefit of the doubt and not jump to conclusions, but while being understandably very concerned. As Wukong is slowly getting back to normal, we see him still chanting the "believe in yourself" line to MK, but there's a bit more weight to it here because he gives him more hands-on help. And these are smaller things, but we do get to see him confide in MK over his fear of performing in front of people, and see him compliment MK's drawing abilities. It's really sweet. It's around here that we start to get a lot of hints about what happened with the Samati fire in the past, and Wukong was definitely a part of that. It becomes apparent that the way Wukong took care of his ring of Samati was incredibly thoughtless. Also, Macaque continues to reference being hurt by Wukong in the past, implying that Wukong throws away his friends if they're no longer useful to him. While it is doubtful that Wukong is still this bad, Macaque certainly believes that he is, which would explain why Macaque seems to have at least shreds of sympathy for MK and Wukong's other teammates. It is very concerning, however, that Wukong has not shared anything about the origin or process of the Samati fire, especially when it seems to imply that it could put Mei in serious danger. It does seem that Wukong was at the very least planning to explain everything, but when confronted by Najar, Wukong's fear for MK's safety takes over again, and he refuses to allow his teammates to help him or tell them what's going on. He simply sends them to the mountain to wait for him. At the mountain, Pigsy reluctantly shares why Wukong may not be someone they should have trusted, since he hasn't shown them any plan even though he claims to have one, and there also being the detail of a possible fourth ring, and the supposedly important map not being very helpful at all so far. It definitely looks like Wukong was keeping up a facade that he had everything figured out, when in reality he was not sure what to do or if anything he was planning would work. My bigger problem with this isn't that Wukong didn't know what to do, it's that he didn't tell anyone that he didn't know what to do. So even though he's been letting his team help him, there's still a barrier he keeps between them and himself. Harboring this kind of information is very harmful and dangerous, and while I'm not defending Wukong, I do think that at least he's doing this out of a crippling fear of losing these people. He can't let them get directly involved. He can't risk them getting hurt. Of course, MK and the others accidentally start the Samati fire reforging and discover that Mei herself is the fourth ring. Wukong can see what's happening from a distance, but he's trapped by Macaque's new powers. In desperation, Wukong all but begs Macaque not to hurt the kid, but Macaque retorts that Wukong himself is the one who's already made things so much worse for MK.
If there's a time to go, it's now! No!
Mei is my best friend. I'd never abandon her when she needs me.
Sadly, it seems that Macaque knows Wukong very well. He knew this whole time that Wukong was just winging it, but the others held on to their faith in him. And as often seems to be the case, Wukong is not there at the moment he needs to be, despite his best efforts. But Macaque is there. When we go back even further to the original splitting of the fire, we see that it was Sun Wukong's faltering that caused there to be a stray flame which struck Mei's ancestor. Now all of this is coming back to bite him, or rather, all his new friends. Finally, as everything is falling apart and poor Mei is literally burning, Wukong stops trying to blame someone else. He finally admits his mistake. He explains everything. Mei is rightfully furious that Wukong kept from her and everyone that she had a time bomb inside of her, but he says that he was planning to find a way to get it out of her and to place it inside himself, but he wasn't even sure how he was going to do that. Now, I do wish we saw more of this from Mei's perspective before now, but she is right when she screams that Wukong has put MK in danger and left him to figure things out on his own again and again. Now, while this is a huge and ugly mess, I do want to acknowledge that Wukong's intentions actually are really good here. Wukong never intended for Mei to get hurt, or anyone. He wanted to make up for his past mistake by taking the flame inside of himself, which is very noble, but it's impossible to figure out by himself. But this is exactly what he tried and failed to do, at the cost of all his friends' safety, and not to mention trust. I don't know for sure, but I do have some thoughts about Wukong's possible reasons for all of this, aside from the ones I already mentioned. Maybe Wukong hides so many things from his friends because he needs them to keep looking up to him and seeing him as the hero, a legend. He doesn't want them to see him for who he really is. Maybe all their hopes will be dashed in light of him not being all that they need him to be. So, just in time for the Season 3 finale, Wukong is now fully aware of how his actions have hurt others and shows remorse, but Wukong once again cuts everyone else off from him. Without any plan, he goes to fight LBD alone. I really do understand Wukong here. He's at least half right. He knows that something needs to change, that he needs to change. He knows he can't keep causing his friends pain, but this is still him acting out of fear instead of logic. He likely can't defeat LBD alone anymore, but he doesn't know what to do. And to be fair, it would be hard to face your friends after seeing just how much pain you caused them for so long. As you can see, this is quite the doozy of a character. We're forced to watch him make the same mistakes over and over again in different ways. And it does make a lot of sense if you think about the fact that Wukong is immortal. He is naturally careless because he has no fear of death for himself, but it's when others are in the picture that that carelessness becomes really damaging, and even when he tries to fix it, he's just been living like this for so long that it's that much harder to break those habits, perhaps? But it leaves the audience wondering, is there any hope for this guy?